This podcast is a work of historical interpretation. While we strive for accuracy, some aspects of history are open to interpretation and debate. Thank you for listening. Welcome to Time Tellers. I'm Renee, and with me is Dan. Today we're diving into one of the most misunderstood and undertaught events of the 20th century, the Korean War. I, for one, was never taught about the Korean War. Until I got to college, anyways, and that was briefly. A war that began with the collapse of an empire, escalated into a Cold War battleground, and ended with a frozen border that remains the most dangerous on Earth.
I wouldn't call it the most dangerous on Earth now.
Maybe not.
It's more ceremonial than anything.
Maybe. At this point, there are probably other borders that are more dangerous, including some of our own.
Yeah. Like the one between PA and Ohio.
Oh, that's so dangerous.
Yeah. I mean, you start driving that way and the roads are all of a sudden smooth.
I know. You get into Ohio and you're like, holy crap, their taxes are paid.
Yeah, instead of the road taxes going to the state police.
What? Crazy shenanigans is that?
And let me just say, I didn't know much about it going in. Vietnam and World War II always get the spotlight in school, but this one, it's wild. Proxy wars, surprise landings, nuclear threats, and a brutal civilian toll. It's like a history class meets a thriller, just like Squid Game.
To understand how the Korean War began, we need to rewind to the end of World War II, when Korea wasn't yet divided into two countries. It was one.
Are you going to get the DeLorean or am I?
Do they even make those anymore? They don't, right?
No, but we have to rewind to the end of World War II, so where are you hiding your time machine?
Where's Doc Brown?
Where's your time machine?
I don't got one. I'm not H.G. Wells. For over 35 years, Korea had been under Japanese occupation, brutally suppressed, exploited, and stripped of sovereignty. When Japan surrendered in August of 1945, Korea was finally free, but only for a moment.
So who steps in? The Allies, right?
Yes, but not as liberators in the way many Koreans hoped. In a hurried decision, the U.S. and the Soviet Union agreed to divide the peninsula at the 38th parallel. The Soviets would administer the North, while the Americans would administer the South.
And this was supposed to be temporary?
Yes, exactly. Just until Korea could govern itself. But the Cold War had other plans. By 1948, two separate governments had formed. In North Korea, there was the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, led by Kim Il-sung, a Soviet-backed communist.
Who was also a great gardener.
And South Korea, there was the Republic of Korea, led by Syngman Rhee, a staunch anti-communist backed by the U.S.
Both claimed to be the only legitimate government of all Korea, and both were preparing for a future where that claim would be tested by force. Crash.
4 a.m. on June 25th, 1950, North Korean forces, 75,000 strong, surged across the 38th parallel, backed with Soviet tanks and Chinese-trained troops. It was a full-scale invasion. South Korea's army was under-equipped, under-trained, and caught off guard. Within days, Seoul fell. Within weeks, North Korean forces had driven the South Korean army and the small number of U.S. advisors into a desperate pocket around the port city of Busan.
That's like bottom right corner of the map, right?
Right. The last stand. If Busan fell, the war might have ended with the unified communist Korea. However, one of the boldest moves in U.S. history, military history, then came.
I'll argue that.
Well, one of them.
The boldest move involved chainsaws.
In a hole. I need them to come take care of the tree in my backyard.
Yeah.
With the South on the brink of collapse, the United States rushed to act. President Harry Truman, without a formal declaration of war, ordered U.S. troops to support South Korea under the banner of the United Nations Command. 16 countries sent combat troops. 40 sent aid.
What are the 16?
I'm going to guess the big ones. Besides us, shut up. We're talking British, French, Canadian. At that time period, West Germany, which wasn't really its own government yet.
Okay, that's 4.
Australia, probably. I'm just guessing based on the.
What were the 40 that sent aid?
The rest of them? Aid could just be food, money, medical supplies.
You mean thoughts and prayers?
Or thoughts and prayers.
And only 40 countries? What about the other 250? There wasn't that many at that point, was there?
I don't know, because a lot of those countries.
That was before a lot of those little former Russian ones.
Yeah, because it's all one big.
Yeah.
So, and we're probably not getting assistance from like South Africa or.
South Africa.
I meant to say South America, not South Africa. Sorry, I was thinking countries in South America.
South Africa was Dutch, so yeah.
Yeah, no, I meant America.
Anyway.
Yeah.
And this wasn't just the U.S. versus North Korea anymore. It was global.
Basically, World War III, right?
Like Squid Games.
Truman framed the war as a stand against communist expansion. We'll hear this repeated time and time again throughout American history in the 20th century, but...
Communism's bad.
It was a test of the Truman Doctrine itself. He said, quote, "If we let Korea down, the Soviets will keep right on going and swallow up one place after another," unquote. At the center of the counterattack was General Douglas MacArthur. Yes, from World War II. A World War II hero with a taste for boldness, and bold he was.
He says he was a hero.
At that time period, people would have considered him a World War II hero, absolutely. I mean, the general public.
Sheeple.
In September 1950, MacArthur launched a daring amphibious landing at Incheon, a port city on Korea's west coast, behind enemy lines. Again, an amphibious landing. It's like he's copying somebody else's. You know, that happened June 6th, 1940. Okay. Carry on.
I will not keep calm. Everyone thought he was crazy. The tides were tricky, the beach was narrow.
But it worked brilliantly. The North Korean army was caught in a pincer movement. UN forces pushed north, retaking Seoul and driving the invaders back across the 38th parallel. By October, U.S. and South Korean forces were marching towards the Yalu River, which was the border with China. However, MacArthur made a fatal miscalculation. Kind of like assuming he would be fine in the Philippines after Pearl Harbor. But anyways, assuming China would remain neutral. Despite warnings from Beijing and Truman's advisors, MacArthur kept pushing north, talking openly about unifying Korea. Then, in late October 1950, waves of Chinese troops poured across the Yalu River. Nearly 300,000 men from the People's Volunteer Army under General I'm going to butcher this last name. I'm very sorry. Dehao? No. Dehu?
And they weren't just helping out. This was an all-out assault.
Yes, UN and U.S. troops were caught off guard in the freezing Korean mountains. The longest retreat in U.S. military history followed. Seoul fell again in January 1951. Public support of this whole endeavor wavered because U.S. casualties mounted. As things turned against the UN forces, General MacArthur clashed repeatedly with Truman. He wanted to bomb China, use blockades, and possibly even, new to their arsenal, nuclear weapons.
Wait, he was ready to nuke China?
Apparently, because is a thing we do now, apparently, in this time period in history with the United States.
Sweet and sour chicken and egg drop soup.
He famously said, quote, "There is no substitute for victory," unquote. But Truman feared World War III, which I would argue we were kind of already in it. But okay. In April of 1951, Truman made a controversial decision. Dun, dun, dun. He fired MacArthur.
Oh, boy.
Bye. It was a political firestorm. MacArthur returned to the U.S. to a hero's welcome, but Truman's move arguably prevented an even wider war. From mid-1951 onward, the war settled into a bloody stalemate near the original dividing line, the 38th parallel. Brutal trench warfare, like World War I, trench.
Or Vietnam.
Yeah, but we haven't even hit Vietnam yet in the timeline.
In between, so...
Yeah, but I'm like, we're still, I mean, they did that in the Civil War, too. Mm-hmm. Not as much, but artillery duels and nighttime raids define the next 2 years. Entire hills changed hands dozens of times. One key battle, Heartbreak Ridge, lasted a month and cost thousands of lives on both sides.
Didn't they make a movie about that?
Yes.
And what was it called?
Heartbreak Ridge.
Oh, okay.
Very original title for that movie.
Yeah. And the civilians?
They suffered the most. Over 2.5 million Koreans were killed, wounded, or went missing, the majority civilians. Because cities were flattened, families were torn apart, napalm, scorched earth tactics, and mass executions left deep scars.
And are we talking about Korea or Israel, Gaza?
The U.S. Air Force dropped more bombs on Korea than it had on the Pacific during World War II. Over 600,000 tons, including 32,000 tons of napalm. By 1952, peace talks had begun at a small village called, I looked this up, Panmunjom. Yes, Panmunjom. Yeah. Just north of Seoul. But they dragged on for months, then years. Why? One word, POWs. Well, both sides accused the other of abusing prisoners of war, and the truth was ugly. Now, is this the war that McCain was a POW, or was that Vietnam?
I think it was Korea.
So here's the dirty... Wait, what was I saying? I switched the page. Okay, here's the ugly truth. The North tortured South Koreans and American POWs using starvation, forced marches, and intense indoctrination. Some were paraded for propaganda. The South and UN forces, in turn, were accused of mistreating Chinese and North Korean prisoners, especially when some of them refused repatriation.
So some prisoners didn't want to go back?
Correct. Roughly 50,000 Chinese and North Korean POWs chose not to return. It became a major sticking point in negotiations, especially for the Chinese, who saw this as a loss of face and a blow to communism. The U.S. insisted that no one be forced to return against their will. Apparently, the U.S. no longer believes in that. A stance rooted in Cold War ideology. Let the people choose freedom. Okay. Meanwhile, the war was also being fought with airdropped leaflets, propaganda radio, and brutal psychological operations. Civilians caught in the middle were often forced to switch allegiances as battle lines moved again and again.
It almost sounds like another episode.
Yeah, it does. Back in the United States, the war had become politically toxic because Americans get very tired of seeing, their fellow countrymen coming home in boxes.
If at all.
If at all. Or just disappearing. And that is understandable.
Yeah.
President Truman chose not to run for re-election in 1952.
He was that unpopular?
Yes, this is so crazy. His approval rating was just 22%. The lowest ever recorded at that point.
Oh, what's the lowest ever recorded now?
I think they meet, at that point means like that point of his tenure in office.
Oh, I thought that was,
Mm.
what was the lowest a president has had, though, is what I was wondering.
It's probably that's probably one of them.
No, but what's the longest?
I don't know. Because I don't know. I don't think it's who you think it is. Because I don't know how long of a track record we have with approval ratings in America. Like the 20th century, sure, but anything before that is iffy. But you look that up for me.
No, there's no point, because I'm sure it'll make me delete it anyway.
I do not make you delete most things.
I'm sure you would for that one, though.
He's number one. The Korean War, economic concerns, and McCarthyism were all weighing him down. His replacement? Dwight D. Eisenhower. Another, because we were talking about MacArthur earlier, another World War II hero, and Ike had a clear campaign promise. I mean, this is not the only thing his campaign was about, of course, but he said, I shall go to Korea. And he did. In December of 1952, as president-elect, while the visit didn't immediately end the war, it signaled new resolve. Eisenhower and his team quietly let China know that if talks failed, the U.S. might escalate, even considering tactical nukes. Soon after, the peace talks restarted with real urgency. That's, yeah. That kind of reminds me of the episode with Carter with the Iranian hostages and Reagan.
We didn't do that episode.
No, I know, but I was
you meant the episode. Oh, okay.
No, like just in our American history. But at 10 a.m. on July 27th, 1953, the Korean Armistice Agreement was signed at Panmunjom by representatives from the United Nations Command, North Korea, and China. Notably, South Korea refused to sign. Syngman Rhee remained opposed to any peace that left Korea divided.
So South Korea didn't even sign the ceasefire that ended the war?
That's right. The armistice was a military agreement, not a political treaty. It did three things: ceasefire between the warring parties, creation of the demilitarized zone, the DMZ, which was a 2.5-mile wide buffer stretching 160 miles across Korea, and agreeing to return POWs who wished to repatriate. But there was no actual peace treaty, no unification, no final resolution. To this day, technically, North and South Korea remain at war. Okay, let's talk about some aftermath and some legacy of this. The numbers are staggering. Nearly 5 million people died. More than half of them were Korean civilians. 36,574 U.S. troops were killed. Over 100,000 wounded. 600,000 Chinese soldiers died, with many more unaccounted for. Entire Korean cities were reduced to rubble. And remember, this is less than a decade. I mean, it started only 6 years after the end of World War II. Yeah. Yet, the war is still called, quote, the war is still called the Forgotten War.
Because there wasn't a clear ending. No victory parade, no peace treaty, just silence.
Especially for those returning home. And its consequences are profound. It solidified the Cold War into global military blocs. It helped justify massive U.S. military budgets and the rise of the military-industrial complex. It reshaped Asia, setting the stage for the Vietnam War, U.S.-China relations, and more. It cemented the division of Korea, leading to radically different nations. The South, now a democratic and economic powerhouse, and the North, an isolated authoritarian regime with nuclear ambitions. And they do have the bomb, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, last I checked, they had it.
Yeah.
For millions, the war never really ended. Families remained divided. The DMZ is still armed. unlike the Berlin Wall in Germany, that's still standing.
There's still some of the wall. They did keep a couple spots.
More for posterity than...
Yeah, just
Yeah.
historical.
And my aunt had a little piece on her wall because she lived there at the time. Anyways. And while the gun stopped in 1953, the echoes never did. I know, I don't understand. The echoes of war. The echoes of war that are still... We still have issues with North Korea and South Korea. They're still in and out of each other's political boundaries and...
It's almost like somebody should write a musical about that.
Almost like they should. Oh, wait. This has been Time Tellers talking about the Korean War. I'm Renee.
And I'm Dan. Thanks for remembering this story with us. The war that history tried to forget, but the world is still living with.
If you appreciated this episode, please share, give us a review, and support our work. Follow us on TikTok, Instagram, Blue Sky, Facebook. I'm running out of, this is all I do all day long is social media stuff. And our website, timetellershistory.com, and check out our new sponsors, of course. And yes, send us an email. Let us know what else you want us to talk about. Remember, the past isn't just behind us. It's the guide to where we go next.